The Lion King is Disney's crown jewel, a flawless masterpiece, except for one gaping hole in its legacy. Where was Zira? Scar was brilliant, but Zira? She was something else entirely. A zealot, a strategist, a mother willing to wage war for her son's birthright. She's one of Disney's most compelling villains. So why did she feel tacked on in Lion King 2? Disney's original mistake. To understand why Zira was left out, we need to go back to 1994. While the animators and storytellers were pouring their hearts into the Shakespearean tale of lions, the Disney executives had very different expectations. They were convinced their other project, Pocahontas, would be their award-winning masterpiece. The Lion King, they saw it as a fun little side project that might make back its budget. This fundamental miscalculation shaped everything about the film's production. The writers crafted Scar as a definitive, final villain who would die with no loose ends. They never imagined they'd need to set up future stories. When the film became a historic, unprecedented success, suddenly they needed a sequel. But they painted themselves into a narrative corner. This is why Lion King 2 feels so disconnected. Because Zira's entire backstory had to be invented after the fact. Scar's fatal weakness. The key to properly integrating Zira lies in understanding Scar's fundamental weakness. Unlike traditional Disney villains who wield magic or command armies, Scar's power is purely intellectual. Physically, he's pathetic, easily overpowered by Mufasa in their brief confrontation. This weakness isn't just character detail. It's the core of his tragedy. In real lion prides, leadership isn't about bloodlines or politics. It's about raw strength. The strongest male leads because he can protect the pride. This explains why Scar needs the hyenas. He lacks the physical power to command the lioness's respect. This creates our first narrative opportunity. If Scar had even one loyal lioness from the start, his entire dynamic changes. But we can't simply insert Zira into Mufasa's pride. That would undermine the original story. The solution? She needs to come from outside. Zira's origin story. Let's imagine a neighboring pride to Pride Lands. Let's call them a Wenzi Pride, where Mufasa rules with wisdom and strength. Their king Buzo rules through fear and gluttony. His queen, Zira, is fiercely loyal despite his flaws. When drought strikes and a younger lion challenges Buzo, the cowardly king abandons his pregnant mate and young son Nuka to save himself. The new king drives Zira and her few remaining followers into exile. This is where we find her when Scar takes power. Not just a random lioness, but a deposed queen, hardened by betrayal, raising her son Nuka in the harsh outlands. She teaches Nuka that weakness equals death, that mercy is for fools. When Scar's hyenas discover her starving group, they don't just find potential allies. They find a kindred spirit in Zira, someone who understands what it means to be cast aside. Zira's rise, Zira's integration into Scar's regime needs to be gradual. At first, she's just another outsider, but her tactical mind quickly becomes apparent. She suggests replacing Sarabi as hunt leader with her own followers. She identifies potential dissidents among the lionesses. Most importantly, she gives Scar something he desperately craves, genuine respect. Not the fearful obedience of the hyenas, but the recognition of a true queen. Their relationship is transactional at first, but develops into something darker. A shared vision of a pride where strength alone matters. This makes her eventual banishment even more tragic. Because in another life, Zira might have been a great queen. Instead, she becomes a monster Simba forces her to be. Zira's power struggle. As Scar's new queen, Zira establishes her own power base within the pride. Her loyal lionesses become Scar's personal guard, a constant, threatening presence that makes the original pride members uneasy. But Zira's position is precarious. When she observes how the younger lionesses, particularly Nala, look at her with barely concealed contempt, she recognizes the threat they pose. In lion society, youth and fertility equal power, and Zira knows her value as queen depends on producing heirs. This leads to her ruthless political maneuver, forcing a union between her maladjusted son Nuka and Nala. The confrontation is brutal. Nuka's awkward advances, Nala's furious rejection, and Zira's cold insistence that this is how pride survive. When Scar, still humiliated by Nala's earlier rejection of his own advances, backs Zira's decree, it creates the perfect pressure point to drive Nala away, setting in motion her fateful meeting with Simba, the Kovu crisis. The night of Simba's return becomes Zira's greatest triumph and ultimate undoing. As she gives birth to Kovu, Scar's true heir, the kingdom is in chaos. The hunting parties fail, the hyenas grow restless, and Zira seizes this moment of vulnerability. In her weakened state, she whispers to Scar that Sarabi's leadership has failed him, that only a strong queen can save the pride. What follows is Scar's most devastating public humiliation of Sarabi. Not just a strike, but a complete stripping of her status, when he declares Kovu as heir and Zira as new hunt leader. It's the final betrayal that triggers Simba's intervention. The subsequent battle becomes a study in tragic irony. Zira's own lionesses, who should be Scar's enforcers, prioritize protecting their postpartum queen over defending their king. As Zira watches helplessly from the shadows, cradling Kovu while Scar falls his apparent death, we see the exact moment her psyche fractures, the birth of her all-consuming vendetta against Simba, the Banishment. Zira's confrontation with Simba after the battle is layered with political nuance. When she demands Kovu's birthright, it's not just madness. She's invoking legitimate lion pride succession customs. Simba's rejection of her claim isn't merely about justice, but a calculated move to prevent future challenges. Their exchange crackles with unspoken truths. Zira knows Simba's return caused Scar's downfall. Simba recognizes Zira as a threat that must be removed but won't slaughter a mother with newborn. The physical confrontation, Zira's desperate lunge, Simba's restrained counter, becomes a perfect metaphor for their entire conflict. As Zira is driven into exile, the image of her carrying Kovu while Nuka limps behind creates 3 generations of wounded royalty. The disgraced queen, the failed heir, and the infant who will bear the weight of their legacy. This moment doesn't just set up Lion King 2. It makes that entire conflict inevitable. With these additions, the original Lion King's ending gained profound new dimensions. Simba's victory now carries the seeds of future conflict. The circle of life isn't neatly closed. It's a spiral that continues into the sequel. Zira's exile isn't an afterthought, but the culmination of her tragic arc from deposed queen to vengeful outcast. Most importantly, we preserve every beloved moment of the original while adding layers of political intrigue and psychological complexity that enrich the entire saga. The story doesn't end with Scar's defeat. It evolves into something grander, darker, and ultimately more meaningful. Do you agree with this rewrite? Do you feel Zira could be developed differently? Let me know in the comments.
Now is the time to attack! We will take his entire kingdom by force!